The year is 1157. For decades, the English have been trying to push the Welsh back into the sea, but their efforts have been in vain. The Welsh not only beat them back, but are now pushing into English lands themselves. In response, King Henry II of England assembles his forces and marches into Wales, determined to put the rebellion down for good. Yet despite his best efforts, Henry's armies struggle against the Welsh. Time and again, they find themselves beaten and humiliated by the unruly mountain men. And after a decade of fighting, Henry simply gives up, officially ending the war in 1165 with the Treaty of Covan. With this treaty, he not only recognized the independence of Wales, but also made it a vassal state of England. And while the English were able to keep Wales down for the next few centuries, the humiliation of their defeat stuck with them. To get even, they began to spread propaganda, claiming that the Welsh were uncivilized barbarians who didn't deserve to be acknowledged in history. Over time, this twisted narrative took hold, and today, almost no one remembers that the Welsh had their own kingdom. But it wasn't just Wales. Across Europe, there were kingdoms that history has tried to erase. Kingdoms whose names have been forgotten, whose borders erased and whose stories whitewashed, so that they never happened. So let us set the record straight and explore the medieval kingdom that history tried to erase. Welcome to my channel. Today we will travel to Ireland, specifically to the island of Arran, which during the 8th century was ruled by Queen Ealb of the Main, while Ireland at this point was divided into several different kingdoms. Ealb managed to unite most of the country under her rule, save for a few small territories in the northeast and southeast. As queen, she led her people into a golden age of peace and prosperity. Trade flourished, culture thrived, and the Irish began to spread across the island, pushing the native Picts further into the mountains. Yet despite all of this success, the Irish would soon come crashing down. In 795, bands of Viking raiders began to descend on Ireland's coast, pillaging and plundering as they went. Although initially the Irish were able to fight off these attacks, over time the Vikings grew bolder and more numerous, eventually taking the siege to inland cities. By the end of the century, the Vikings had taken Dublin and were marching across the island, forcing Alvi and her people into hiding. By 802, the queen was dead and her kingdom fractured. Within 2 more centuries, the Vikings would take full control of Ireland, establishing 5 kingdoms of their own. And by the 11th century, Gaelic culture was all but forgotten. Of course, the Irish did eventually rise up against their oppressors and win their freedom, but the damage was already done. By this point, most of the Gaelic kingdoms had been replaced with new ones founded by the English, Scottish, and Norse, and the memory of what once was quickly faded from the minds of men. But it wasn't the only kingdom lost to time. From the 9th to 11th centuries, Eastern Europe was dominated by the First Bulgarian Empire. Founded by the eponymous Khan Asparuh, the empire stretched from the Danube to the Black Sea and was home to a multitude of different peoples, including Slavic, Turkic, and Germanic tribes. Throughout its existence, the empire was constantly at war, first with the Greeks to the south and later with the Hungarians to the west. But despite constant conflicts, the empire thrived due to its diverse population. Bulgarians adopted the skills and technologies of those they conquered, and in turn, spread their own innovations throughout the region. By the 10th century, the empire was home to world-class universities and libraries, and its merchants were some of the richest in the world, but it wouldn't last. After the death of Tsar Samuel in 1040, the empire fell into decline. Its governors grew weaker, its army less disciplined, and its neighbors hungrier than ever to take its lands. Eventually, in 1165, the empire was broken in half with the Second Hungarian-Bulgarian War. And by 1365, Bulgaria was completely gone, absorbed into Hungary, Serbia, and the Ottoman Empire. Today, barely anything remains of the Bulgarian Empire. Its people and culture absorbed into its neighbors, its borders erased from maps, and its story rewritten to make it seem like it never existed. But it wasn't the only kingdom lost to time. Anyway, I'll see you next time.